Look at your surname. Do not see it as a simple word on a document or a signature on a piece of paper. See it as a scar of war. In the year 1066, an invading Norman army crossed the sea with a single objective: to erase the existence of your family. They confiscated sacred lands. They destroyed the elite of a nation. They imposed a new language, reduced free men to brutal servitude, and tried to tear Old English out of history. The island's very identity was on the brink of total annihilation. But if you bear one of the names on this list, their plan failed miserably. Watch this video all the way to number 1, because the last surname on this list belongs to the most brutal caste of warriors in pre-Norman England, men who formed the last and unbreakable shield wall. And the extreme survival instinct that kept them alive still resides in your blood today. Number 10, Wood, a name born from the deep and impenetrable forests of ancient England. When the Norman Empire marched to dominate the valleys and impose its oppressive aristocracy, your ancestors made a drastic decision. They did not bow. They retreated into the shadows of the great woodlands. At that time, the Normans feared the forest. It was a wild territory where their heavy cavalry was useless. The men who originated the name Wood were often the Silvatici, the men of the forest, rebels who formed the first line of invisible resistance. They hunted on lands confiscated by the invading kings, faced hunger, cold, and relentless persecution, operating as a guerrilla force among the trees. Bearing this name means that your blood belongs to those who preferred the absolute danger of nature to the humiliating safety of servitude. Number 9, Bradley, the great clearing in the forest. Your name is not merely a geographical location, it is a living monument to resilience. While the new invading elite sheltered in stone castles and adopted French names to secure favors and political power, your lineage made an agonizing choice. They remained on the margins of the new Norman civilization. Isolated in the clearings, they engraved Old English into their descendants as an act of veiled rebellion. They cultivated the land that had been stolen from them on paper, but that continued to be nourished by Anglo-Saxon sweat. The survival of the Bradley family ensured that the heart of the English people continued beating far from the eyes of foreign lords, sustaining generations through centuries of oppression. Number 8, Townsend, the boundary of the settlement, the one who lives on the frontier. Your ancestor was the dividing line that separated the Anglo-Saxon community from the brutality of the outside world. In villages constantly watched and taxed by Norman sheriffs, the family that lived at the edge of town assumed the unofficial role of lookout. They were the first to see the tax-collecting cavalry approaching, the first to warn the village, the first to face danger head-on. They endured the invading advance while holding their positions at the forefront of danger, refusing to retreat a single inch from their heritage. The name Townsend carries the burden and courage of being the living shield of an entire community. Number 7, Wright, the builder, the master craftsman. When Norman swords failed to bend the spirit of your people, the invaders realized something terrifying. Their crown would collapse without you. Your ancestor mastered the demanding skills of carpentry and engineering that raised structures, bridges, and ships. The Normans built fortresses to intimidate, but it was the hands of the Wright lineage that built the infrastructure that allowed life to continue. Your surname is proof of a silent and undeniable resistance. They tried to turn your people into slaves, but the technical intelligence and raw skill in your blood made your lineage absolutely indispensable to the survival of entire empires. Number 6, Webb, the weaver. A name forged in patience, sweat, and millimetric precision. While armies burned villages outside, your family spun the resistance from within. The foundational economy of medieval England depended on weaving, and by mastering this craft, the ancestors of the Webb family ensured that they would not depend financially on any Norman lord. More than that, they kept alive the patterns, colors, and aesthetics of a culture that the invader was trying to extinguish. They tied Old English into the very fabric of society. If you are a web, your family proved that the survival of a people is achieved not only with iron, but with the ability to interweave its own history in such a way that no one can unravel it. Number 5. Coleman, the charcoal burner. The man who mastered the most volatile and dangerous element, fire. Your blood provided the heat and energy that forged the resistance of your people. The life of a coalman was brutal, requiring isolation in the forests to burn wood in suffocating underground kilns, producing the charcoal essential to the functioning of the medieval world. Without the sacrifice and deadly labor of your ancestor, the forge would stop and the swords would grow cold. It was a life of shadows, dirt, and immense hidden power. They tried to erase your lineage from the books of nobility, but they forgot that your people controlled the flames that warmed the nation. Number 4. Smith, the blacksmith. The deafening blow of the hammer against the anvil, your ancestor-shaped steel. Absolute masters of iron whose skills were so fundamental that even the most tyrannical invading lords were forced to protect them. To be a smith in invaded England was to walk a tightrope between serving the enemy during the day and forging the resistance at night. The name Smith carries the weight of men with arms of steel and hands marked by burns. Men who knew the secrets of metal alloys and sharpened blades. They kept the military and agricultural strength of a nation alive in the dark. Your lineage could never be truly dominated, because the one who controls iron controls the destiny of a war. If your name is on this list, confirming the survival of your blood against absolute erasure, subscribe to this channel now. We bring you the historical truths and genetic codes that time tried to destroy. Join us and discover what else runs through your veins. Number 3. Edward, the guardian of wealth. A name that carries the unmistakable echo of the ancient kings and the high nobility of the resistance. Edward was the name of Anglo-Saxon kings, including the sacred Edward the Confessor. When the invasion of 1066 threatened to annihilate the national identity, keeping the name Edward was a declared act of political and psychological defiance. It meant looking into the eyes of conquerors with names like William and Richard and saying that the old crown would never be forgotten. Your blood descends from those who risked their lives and their property simply because they refused to abandon the heritage of their original rulers. They were the guardians of a legacy that the enemy's sword could not sever. Number 2. Godwin, the friend of God. This is the name of the most powerful and feared dynasty in England in the moments before the fall. The House of Godwin was the family of King Harold, the last Anglo-Saxon king, who fell with an arrow in his eye at the Battle of Hastings. Signing and bearing the name Godwin after 1066 was the equivalent of carrying a target on your back. It meant that your family was intimately connected to total resistance, supreme authority, and the freedom of the island. If this is your name, your lineage stood at the absolute center of the military and political hurricane. They were hunted, dispossessed, and hated by the Normans, but they refused to bow their heads and disappear into the mists of history. Number 1. Harding, the courageous, the unshakable, the hard in battle, We have reached the final wall. Your name is the literal translation of the brutality of ancient warfare. When Normandy's infantry and heavy cavalry advanced uphill, your ancestor belonged to the caste of men who planted their feet in the blood-soaked earth, raised their heavy oak shields, and decided that the invaders would not pass without paying with their lives. They formed the legendary Shield Wall. They represent the instinct for combat in its purest form and the unbreakable refusal to yield. The invading sword tried to cut down the tree of your lineage at its roots during battles that painted the fields red, but your name proves, 1,000 years later, that they failed. The Norman Empire imploded from within. The French language ceased to rule the island. The Anglo-Saxon lineage did not merely survive, it absorbed its conquerors and prevailed. You are not a mere accident of history. You are the living, pulsating monument to that undeniable victory. The name you carry on your documents today is the physical proof that your lineage survived systematic extermination. Go down to the comments now. Write your surname. Use the comments as a true battle cry. Prove that nearly 1,000 years after the greatest invasion in British history, the blood of 1066 still breathes, still watches, and still dominates.